Hi everyone, welcome back to TaraChessAcademy. Today we're going to look at another study. So this study was composed by Pervakov and Minski. And here it's white to move and win. So we can see that white's down three pawns, and black has a sort of weak king. So we can try to use our initiative to attack the king and get into a winning position. So first of all, you can pause the video and think about what's the right continuation. So here we'll look at a few different lines. So to start, just queen h7 with simple threat of maybe like rook f2, but just after queen d6, rook f2, king goes to e7, queen takes g7, king to d8, rook f8 check, bishop e8, and black is fine and has a practical chance to win. Objectively, probably around equal, but black slightly better. So rook f2 immediately instead is a better move. And now if king e8 is met with queen e6, and so king g8 is the only move, queen f6 is just lose the queen, king g8, and here after bishop takes c4, there's king h8, and if we try something like queen g6 with the idea of after it takes, rook h2, queen h4, rook h4, mate, this will just be met with rook takes d6, and black is winning. So here we go queen g6. The idea being that if they take, they open up the h file, and we'll just get checkmated like this. And if they go king h8, here we have rook h2, h6, we take on h6, queen takes h6, king g8, and bishop takes c4 is mate. So another move is rook to b7, and here we play queen e4, and now we're just threatening queen e5, bishop c4, and we're also attacking the rook. So after rook b4, we can play queen to d5, king h8, queen takes a5, and the queen can't take because the back rank is weak. So after rook to b8, we can play something like queen a4, and we'll just be winning. If queen e6, guarding the rook and capturing, this will be met with queen c7, distracting the queen from the protection of the f8 square. And if the queen doesn't take, then there'll just be a back rank mate with queen c8 coming up. So the best move here is rook to b8. Now, if we try something like d4, this can just be met with bishop b3. And if we continue like this, black gets a reasonable position and is pretty happy with this position. So also if we try just queen f7, this doesn't do anything and there's no threats. And if we try to go for queen e6, also no real threats, as this can just be met with queen b6 and rook f8, d4, rook f2, king f2, queen b2, and black is fine after just bishop d7. this will probably end in some kind of perpetual, like if h6, queen a8, and queen e4 and back is fine, but most obvious move would be just bishop takes c4. Now, if king h8, if we go rook h2 with the idea of h6, rook h6 being mate, and in front of queen h7 or rook h7, the problem with this is that there's queen b6. So if we look at the rook b7 variation, queen g6, rook b7, here we want queen e4, but if we want the same way, queen g6, rook b8, and we try to go queen e4, then the back rank would be more protected and black could do something like king h8 and queen b6. So the rook being on b8 allows the queen some more activity, which makes the position harder for white to attack. So bishop takes e4, king h8. Now here we go bishop d3, and other moves don't work. d4 just doesn't really do much after e4, and rook h2 can just be met with rook to b1 check, bishop f1 and h6. There's no rook h6 here because there's no bishop on c4, and queen e4 can just be met with rook to d1 or even rook f1 and queen d6. Black is completely fine. So d4, the main threat is kind of just opening lines with this, so it doesn't really do anything if they go e4. So d4, there's no real point. So bishop d3, and now if takes, we go rook h2, king bishop c4, king f8, and the e7 square is controlled by the d6 pawn. Rook h8 check will just be checkmate. So after bishop d3, black has a surprising resource here in queen h4. Now the point is that if takes, just the queen will be taken off, and the h file, which was the way for the rook to checkmate the king, is now closed. So the point is after queen h4, if takes, the h file will be closed, and black will have a very good position. So if queen f7, trying to continue with queen f8, there's queen g3, rook d2, queen e1, bishop f1, and if g6, queen f6, king g8, king h2, queen e4. While there was rook g8 and queen h4 immediately, also with just a perpetual queen e1 or queen d4, and this will just be a perpetual check and it will be drawn. So queen f7 doesn't work. Queen f5 is better because now after queen takes g3, we go king f1. We're threatening here this checkmate, and we're also threatening queen f8 mate. So the only way to stop both mates is to take on d3, queen takes d3, and bishop b5. It seems like black's gotten out of all the trouble. They're up 3. They have these nice pawns, but we have a nice strike in d4. If d7, just there's no way to support this pawn. So d4, and Now, if this pawn is kind of ignored, then now this c file is open, so rook c2 is an idea. That's the point of d4. We open up the c file to help the d7 pawn. So he takes d4. Now if d7, just d3, controlling c2, and black wins. So we have to go rook c2 immediately. And now after rook f8, we go king e1, because other moves such as king e2 can be met with rook d8 or d3. And after king e1, rook d8 will be met with d7, and this can't be taken. And if we compare this line over here, rook d8, d7, just d3 comes with a check, forcing the pawn off, and rook d8 will come, and black will be winning. So we have to move away, and we don't want to go d2 or anywhere other than that, because just d3 will just make a winning position for black. So rook f8 is met with king e1. Now king g8 is the best move now because of d7. King g8 is met with d7, and after rook d8, rook c8, white is winning in this position. Also, if king f7, there was rook f2 or rook c8, both possible. And we would go into this endgame where black has all these pawns, but the rook will eventually attack them all and just win them one by one. And the king will try to help out and block some of these pawns. So also after d7, rook f8, rook c8. If we continue like this, king f7, rook d8, king e7, king d7, rook b5 will come, and this pawn will just be taken off. Then we'll just simply take this pawn, king d3, and many moves win already. And here we just have a very easy winning position. So this endgame with rook against the pawns is just winning. So after d7, rook d8, rook c8, white wins. So I hope you like this study. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on my next video. Bye.